Previously on Lost.
The decision to stage every single scene with showy visuals, incongruous scene transitions, and fussed-over motifs makes sense when you think about the massive chip on the Russos' respective shoulders. These are two guys whose charming work on subversive comedy shows like Arrested Development and Community helped them get the keys to the MCU kingdom, but who otherwise only have helmed deeply missable feature films like Welcome to Collinwood and You, Me, and Dupree. They clearly have taken a novel that connected to readers by being an intimate and distinct exploration of addiction and trauma and tried to give it the bravura style every movie that thinks it's Goodfellas has attempted to be for the last 30 years. Who makes theme park rides now, Mr. Scorsese? But in their try-hard approach to making the story feel bigger and more complex than it truly needs to be, they prove a rather depressing truth. That they're not secret indie auteurs whose blandness is the result of Kevin Feige's endless tinkering, but that perhaps the only reason those movies were so successful in the first place was because of his guiding hand, and these guys aren't the next franchise moguls they've been purported to be, but a pair of semi-talented dudes who should stick to helming comedies made by smarter and more creative individuals. Defund the Russos. Hi everyone, I'm Dom Griffin, I'm a film critic and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. This is an ongoing video series I do where we talk about new movies, old movies, television series, comics, all sorts of things. Basically, if you're into film or film adjacent popular culture and you like to see somebody take those things and pick them apart, you're in the right place and you should consider subscribing. Today, I'm reviewing The Gray Man, the new Netflix film from the Russo Brothers, and it stars Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. If you've been checking in with the channel these last couple of months, you're very well aware that I'm in a bit of a rut. I've not really been enjoying movies, and seeing as how I review them on a regular basis, that's kind of a problem. If you saw the little intro bit referencing my Cherry review, the last movie directed by the Russo Brothers, a lot of the things that I feel about The Gray Man are similar to the things that I felt about Cherry. But I don't want to rehash all those things. That video is, I guess, kind of one of my better videos, to be entirely honest. So if you're curious to dig deeper into my issues with the way the Russos make films, you should watch that video. I'll link it above. It's a good one. I was considering waiting another week or two for The Gray Man to actually hit Netflix. It's out in limited release this weekend, but it doesn't hit Netflix until like the 22nd. I was originally going to wait until it hits Netflix so that I could do a similar sort of shot-for-shot breakdown of the movie and really show a lot of B-roll and really dig into like a lot of my more minor complaints. But I didn't want to just kind of rehash the Cherry video, because one, I liked this movie more than Cherry, but also two, I have a lot of feelings about it now, and I didn't want to really stew on it more and all that stuff. I kind of wanted to be a little more conversational and just a little bit more straightforward with you guys. So this video won't have very much B-roll at all. It'll just be me talking. You guys are going to kind of get the rough draft version of my reviews that my friends get, that the group chat gets, that people get like right when I walk out of a movie. If you're into that, then stick around. If you're not, you really can watch the Cherry video and like get most of my feelings, with the caveat that Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans are just better performers than Tom Holland, and also this movie has way more guns. So The Gray Man is based on a series of spy novels. Ryan Gosling plays the main character, the titular Gray Man, who goes by the codename Six. He's a member of like a small cabal of Black Ops mercenaries who are like off the books for the CIA, and the basic gist of the story is that he is sort of framed and he's on the run by his own masters, and the only way they can try to bring him down, because he's like such an elite, cool fighter, is to send Chris Evans' character after him. And you can tell he's the villain because he has a mustache, and he's a complete unhinged sociopath, Blackwater type who doesn't answer to the government. He just does whatever he wants. They give him carte blanche to try to kill or capture Ryan Gosling and this like thumb drive necklace MacGuffin thing that he carries around. Now, on paper, that is my favorite kind of movie. I love really basic meat and potatoes action thrillers where there's like a guy and he has like a thing he's trying to get from one place to another and someone's chasing him and they fight a lot and stuff blows up. It's real hard to mess up that kind of movie. It's very difficult for me to not love movies like that. Like I adore movies in this very basic wheelhouse. But I have just a laundry list of complaints and issues with The Gray Man. But before I launch into them, I do want to like give the movie some props and talk about things that I did enjoy. Because I'm not going to be a jerk about it, there are things in this movie that I did dig. And by things, I really just mean the cast. They say that a big majority of directing is just casting. Like if you cast the right people in the right parts, a lot of the work's already done. You just kind of have to guide them and let them kind of take what's on the page and bring it to life, you know? Having a movie that's this basic with two leads like Gosling and like Evans is right off the bat like you're doing good work. You know what I mean? Like right off the bat, this is what the movie needs. Most of the time when a movie is very star-driven or has like two very recognizable stars that go head to head, that kind of movie obviously depends on the chemistry between the two stars. But if it's a good movie, if you don't have these amazing leads, you could make a serviceable version with like the B version of those characters. Like when Law Abiding Citizen came out and it's got Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx, that's very clearly a movie that was probably developed to have Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington. Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx are like slightly lower down the totem pole than those guys, but they're still talented in their own right, and they did what they did with that movie. If it wasn't for the cast of The Gray Man, if you had whatever the B or C tier level version of this cast with the same script and action and direction and all that stuff, I feel like the movie would be like near unwatchable. Because so much of what I actually liked about it is the fact that every part is filled with a really good actor. You get Ryan Gosling in the lead, who I don't think has ever turned in a bad performance, like ever. Even when he was on Young Hercules, he was a star. And then Chris Evans, now that he's done being Captain America, gets to ham it up and play the kind of weird, lovable psychos that he used to play, like kind of the sleazy work that he did in Knives Out, but more violent. Clearly the guy's having a good time. And Armas is in here, and she has plenty to do. She's like a big part of the movie. She gets to kick ass and just, you know, be cool. Jessica Henwick from The Matrix Resurrections is in it. Also very good. Billy Bob Thornton. I love Billy Bob. I love Billy Bob. I love seeing him in anything. He's fantastic in this movie. He plays Ryan Gosling's character's handler, who gets caught in the fray of this ongoing manhunt. Julia Butters, the little girl from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the girl who likes Macanudo cigars on I Think You Should Leave, plays Billy Bob's niece, and she ends up being very important to the story, which I'll get into later. And it's just, everyone's firing on all cylinders. Every little person. Alfred Woodard shows up for a couple of scenes, just knocks that out of the park. It's cool to see a movie that kind of feels like it could be any random 90s action thriller that like Paramount released or something, but that it's filled with the right amount of cool actors who are all like doing good work and having a good time on screen and grounding it in the right amount of reality. It's pleasant. That's something that we don't get a lot of anymore. I feel like all the big actors, when they are drawn to movies together, it's either for some big superhero movie or it's whatever David O. Russell's doing, like not a lot in between. The action, I have negative things to say about later, but the choreography in the action in the hand-to-hand fight scenes, quite good. Most of the hand-to-hand combat scenes of people punching and kicking looks great. I don't quite like the way it's edited and cut together, but the choreography's there, and all the leads do good work within the fights. The fights are pretty good. The fights are cool. I like the fights. There's one major action set piece in the movie that you've seen in the trailer. It's the one with the train. That set piece is like longer than most of the other action set pieces in the movie, and as such, it's a little bit easier to really dig into it and like actually get taken away by it, which I appreciated. That was a bit in the movie where I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I came for. This is what I was hoping the whole movie would feel like. It doesn't, but at those times, that was nice, you know? What else did I write down as being good in the movie? Chris Evans' mustache, these Red Wing boots that Ryan Gosling wears all the time, and I can't seem to find them in my size because I have crazy Frankenstein feet. Okay, I think that's it. We can get into my issues with the movie now. One of the things that I said I didn't like about Cherry as a movie is that the Russo brothers seemed so excited to sort of be out of the Marvel sphere, right? And getting to do kind of whatever they wanted for maybe the first time in their careers, actually having like a budget behind them. And it felt like they wanted to prove that they weren't just like workmen. They weren't just like, you know, workaday guys that Kevin Feige could push around. Like, Cherry feels like dudes trying to make like 9 movies at once. It's okay to be excited and inspired by the limitless nature of cinematic expression, but I do think if you're making a movie, you should figure out what movie that is and then make that movie, and then not make a movie where every other scene feels like a different movie. Sometimes a movie can do that, and like if it's an anthology series, or if it's a particularly frenetic narrative that has a lot of twists and turns, you can kind of get away with that. Or if everything you're doing is so jarring and strange that becomes its own like particular style, like it's on purpose, then I'm kind of cool with it. So much of what I hate about Cherry is that every other scene, the tone shifts wildly, and like the actual visual language is so inconsistent, and it's like 2 people directed this together, like brothers who work together all the time. No one at any point on set was like, hey, this is not going to cut together well. Like, no one even worried about that. So while producing a movie for Netflix is not drastically different, I suppose, than producing a movie for Apple TV Plus, I just sort of felt like this seems like a more straightforward narrative than Cherry the book was. And it's the sort of thing that they kind of already did in The Winter Soldier. Like, I'm like, this should just be like The Winter Soldier, but without comic book stuff. Like, this shouldn't be hard. But this is a movie that feels like two guys constantly trying to, like, prove that they have, like, stylistic ambition. And maybe they do, but, like, the actual executed product does not match whatever lofty goals they had in mind. And I'm being presumptuous here. Maybe their goals weren't lofty at all, but watching this movie, it feels like 6 distinctly different movies. There's a point about 45 minutes into the movie when Ryan Gosling's character 6 is like on the run, and he ends up like taking a nap on like a train he's hiding in. I'm not going to spoil anything in the movie, but that's what's happening. And 45 minutes into a movie that's a little bit over 2 hours, it just cuts back to this flashback to explain why Julia Butters' character, this young girl, is like important to him. And the flashback is like cutesy. It's got like an ostentatious needle drop. Like it becomes like its own different kind of movie. And I remember thinking, I get why this is important for the relationships between these characters, but it brings the movie just careening to an uncomfortable halt. And it feels kind of like when someone's telling you a story, like in person, like they're just talking, like I'm just talking in this video, and I might forget to say something, and then I have to double back, like, oh, okay, I forgot this part, but this is important. That's how the movie feels. And this movie has like 3 credited screenwriters. Marcus and McFeely, the guys that wrote Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and I think they also wrote Pain and Gain, which is a really good movie. And then there's a few other writers who I guess have like minor rewrite work and stuff. It's a bunch of people working on this movie, and it feels so thrown together. It feels like these guys, as the movie progressed, were kind of like, okay, this is a little too simple. What if we added this other wrinkle? What if it was actually like this? But like they didn't actually go back and rewrite the story to match that. They just threw it in later. On one level, you have this very basic story about a spy with a MacGuffin on the run from another spy, and they fight each other and stuff blows up. But then it seems like they thought that was a little bit too easy. What if, on another level, it's actually about the fact that this guy is a spy because he has no tether to any family, and the only family he's ever known has been abusive and terrible, and this little girl is like a sister to him, and Billy Bob is like a father to him, and it's like a family drama, and we'll just throw in random flashbacks to Shea Wiggum being an abusive father roughly an hour and a half into the movie, you know, and it gives you like the hint of some sort of substance, I guess. Like it's like they're just gesturing off screen to depth that they didn't actually bother like weaving into the narrative. Even that doesn't feel like enough. What if we add that it's also just kind of like a yuck 'em up, jokey, goofy party thing? Like Chris Evans, one of the only people in the movie who seems to be dialed into the right wavelength. Like he gets that this is like a messy, big action movie, and his performance reminds me of like Craig Bierko in The Long Kiss Goodnight, or just like other kind of like smarmy, crazy guys in action movies. Like it's a really good stock type, I guess. But then you got Ryan Gosling, who's an incredible actor, and he has to play this. The only way I can really describe it is that Ryan Gosling's character, I know people who watch this are going to go, oh, he's just like he is in The Nice Guys. And The Nice Guys, Shane Black is a really good writer and it's really funny, and he's just playing Daffy Duck. That's what makes that work so well. Everything he does on screen, he's just playing Daffy Duck. Here, Ryan Gosling feels like what would have happened if Ryan Reynolds played the Denzel part in Man on Fire, and it's about as like unsavory as that sounds. Ryan Gosling is delightful. He's fun to watch, so I don't care. He's still a net positive, but it's just the tonal shift between like sad loner with family issues to like, I'm just cracking wise nonstop. There was a tweet, I've actually seen variations of this tweet several times, but it's about the fact that Ryan Gosling is playing Ken in the Barbie movie. And this tweet is talking about how he's the wrong person to play Ken because Ken should be like an empty, himbo, vacuous brain person, and Ryan Gosling's face is just dripping with subtext and inner thoughts. As an actor, one of the reasons we love his work is because he's able to do not much with his face and then just project so much inner life. It's what makes him good in Drive, Place Beyond the Pines, Blade Runner 2049, First Man. First Man's a whole movie of him just staring at the camera, you know? He's great at that type of stuff. And when this movie opens, it opens with like him being recruited into the spy program, and he's just cracking wise and being smarmy and chewing gum and stuff. And I remember thinking like, what a waste of Ryan Gosling. Why would you cast Ryan Gosling to be in a movie like this and do this. You could get anyone to do this part, like any guy. But then there's like this hard cut to like 18 years later to the present day to show you that, okay, this wisecracking criminal is now a hardened spy. And when you first see him, he looks like Ryan Gosling, the guy who's every film bro's like self-insert fantasy, right? And he has like the pathos and everything. And for a second I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of masterful. Like that time jump immediately implies all the years of killing and violence and horrible things that he's forced upon people. You know what I mean? And I thought now he's going to look more like an actual Ryan Gosling performance. But then within like 40 seconds or something, he's back to like cracking wise and being goofy. And I was like, you know, this is probably going to be the whole movie. The whole movie is probably going to be half ideas that I think are cool, that aren't executed well, and aren't tethered to the other ideas in any meaningful way. While we're talking about the actors, and I praise everybody, the light-skinned guy from Bridgerton that everybody wants to fuck, horrible. Horrible in this movie. He plays one of the antagonists, terrible. He is awful. Like, it's actually one of the worst, most cardboard performances I've seen in a mainstream movie in like a very long time. I don't know why people thought that guy should be James Bond. I don't know why people like him, other than the fact that he's like handsome, I guess. He fucking sucks. He doesn't have the range.
She doesn't have the range.
But I do like that his character is part of like one of my favorite spy movie tropes, which is all the bad things the CIA does, those are only being taken out by an evil part of the CIA that's like secret and duplicitous, functioning separately from the real CIA that is like good. That always cracks me up because like we know that's not real. I remember thinking at times that if you had pulled some of the things out of the movie and made it more streamlined, like if you had like an hour and 45-minute version of this that's just like The Fugitive and it's a guy on the run and a guy chasing him, that I think I would have actually really liked. If you had a version that was more specifically centered around Ryan Gosling and Julie Butters' characters and like the whole family back history stuff, all of that, and then the action was just kind of like tethered to that, I would have actually been cool with that. It would have been like a little bit more like PG and like family friendly, but I think Gosling and Butters actually have good chemistry together. I would have been into that movie. If you had gone the other route and just made it like a gonzo, over-the-top, violent, irreverent action thriller with that steered in the direction of Chris Evans' performance, where everyone's just like cursing and being like shocking and stuff like that, like I also would have been cool with that version of the movie. But they won't pick one. They refuse to just pick one or even two. They want to have all the things. They want to have Anna Armas and Jessica Henwick's characters have a lot of screen time, and they get to do more and be around more than female characters in these movies tend to be, but they also like don't feel like real people on their own. Like Jessica Henwick really in almost every scene is just yelling at Chris Evans like, hey, you can't do that, that's bad. That's like her whole character. And then Anna Armas gets all these moments where she gets to like save Ryan Gosling so they can make jokes about how, you know, oh, hey, it's a woman saving a man. That doesn't happen very often, but like she still doesn't feel like a real person. She's just there because someone has to help Ryan Gosling. They're just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And that's also how I feel about the Russos' visual language from the movie, because there's just so many unmotivated camera angles and movements and cuts and things happen just to happen. Every time there's like a basic talking head sequence, there's two people talking back and forth. Anytime the camera moves or there's cuts, they always feel like they were chosen at random to make the scene more dynamic. And I know that I champion Michael Bay on this channel a lot. I talk about Baz Luhrmann, and there's these big vulgar auteurs, I guess, that I love. I love their big, messy, ugly styles. But those messy, ugly styles are styles. They're like an actual thing. I can look at 30 seconds from a movie and know who directed it because they're making a real thing. What the Russos are doing just feels like the first time someone opens up like Fruity Loops and they never made a beat before, they're just like hitting random pads and hoping for the fucking best. It's like that, but with $200 million. And cameras, and actors, and craft services, and grips, and post-production VFX supervisors. They're just like fucking around. And these guys have been in the industry for a very long time. Like they're veterans at this point. And kudos to them, they helmed two of the biggest, highest grossing movies of all time. I can't take that away from them. No one can really take that away from them. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. Good for them, good on them. I don't think they're bad people necessarily. I don't like hate them. I don't have like a real actual scorn for them. I just don't understand what they're doing. They actually happen to be in a position where they can kind of do whatever they want, and what they want to do sucks. And that's weird. It's kind of sad. Recently, Netflix kind of said that they're essentially going to stop funding movies like Roma and The Irishman and Power of the Dog, where they don't really want to spend money making big art house movies or being the place where filmmakers that can't get funding from the major studios can come and actually have like a fun playground. Marty moved along to Apple, thank you, Tim Cook. But Netflix is like out of that business. They're like, we're not fucking making movies like The Irishman anymore. They have no problem continuing to make just dreck. But it seems like The Gray Man, Red Notice, this thing where they're synthesizing movies based around like clickable thumbnails, basically. Like, all right, let's get these faces, these hues, this title, this general thing, and try to put a little bit of everything in it for everyone, and you come out with these gray messes, basically. Like, this movie doesn't feel like anything. Even the parts I liked, I'm not going to remember it in a few months. You know what I mean? And I've said that about a lot of movies lately, and I know that seems like maybe a cheap criticism, but there are movies from a long time ago that were like disposable, and even the disposable movies had like character. Movies that I used to watch on like TBS or Comedy Central on Sunday afternoons in the TV edit version that are seared into my brain. And maybe it's because I was younger, but I really genuinely think that it's because back then some of these movies just had more character to them, you know, even like the studio comedies, even the basic action movies, like they had more oomph. Nowadays, as much as we complain about how the superhero movie has become repetitive and that it's like this terrible amorphous blob taking over popular culture, I think movies like Red Notice and movies like The Gray Man and this direction that we seem to be going in, I think these are worse. At least the superhero movies are ultimately like family pictures designed to sell toys and stuff. These movies, though, feel somehow more cynical and more hollow, and they sort of sell themselves as being a throwback to the kind of action movies they loved in the 90s, but they're just so much worse, and they're made by less talented filmmakers, and the actors in them seem less interested in doing them, and they're just kind of, you know, moonwalking through. In this movie, it happens to be a cast where their lazy moonwalking is still very entertaining and very charming and very likable, but what's the next thing? Like, they might make a sequel to this. It's part of a book series, and it definitely feels like they're trying to build a franchise, but I don't know what the fuck a Gray Man 2 would look like. I just know I don't really want to watch it. I think if I go on any longer, it'll be offensive at some point, so I'm just going to drop it. But look, if you're interested in seeing The Gray Man, wait for it to hit Netflix, because at least you can watch it in your pajamas. Please don't leave the house to find a theater that's playing this movie. Even though it is a $200 million action movie, it still sort of looks and feels like a TV pilot, so seeing it on a big screen is not going to help you. This movie is perfectly acceptable on an iPad mini or a Kindle Fire, or like just on the TV or something. Like, you don't have to go to the theater for this one. Please don't bother. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, please subscribe. If you have any thoughts or things you want to talk about in the comments, please do that. I'll try to respond when I can. I've got at least one more review coming to the channel before the end of the month. I have one next week. It's a movie that I hope is good. Like, I really hope it's good. I could use a win. I could use a movie that's good, you know, because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, if the next video I have to put on here is as like torturous and negative as this one is, then we're probably just gonna have to like nuke the channel. I'll probably come back, maybe doing some cooking content. Might become sort of like a hype beast fashion house thing. I could just do like outfits of the day. Might rebrand as like an alpha male podcaster. Maybe I can just, you know, someone's got to replace the void that Kevin Samuels left. Let me know what you guys think I should do if movies continue to be awful. Tell me in the comments below what you want to see the Armchair Auteur 2.0 to be like. Please save me.